Last night, I was fortunate enough to attend the book launch for Mark Danielewski's latest novel, Tom's Crossing. It's a very thick Western, over 1,200 pages long, and it was at Chevalier's Books in Los Angeles. It was like no book launch I've ever been to. So, not that I've been to many. I've been to a couple of signings and things like that, but this was not a traditional signing. This was a very Western-themed setup in the back of the store. Everybody was wearing cowboy hats, including myself. There was a photo booth. There was an open bar. There was an art display around the center of the store depicting items, photographs, and paintings of events or people in the book. There was even a band there. It was an amazing time. Oh yeah, pizza. How could I forget pizza? There was free pizza outside from a pizzeria right next door to the bookshop. But it felt more like a gathering of friends because that's how everyone was treating each other. I ran into a bunch of his friends who were there to support him, including Danny Elfman, which was quite a surprise. And of course, Mark himself, he wasn't... So I'd only read House of Leaves. I'd never read any of his other stuff. So in my mind, I pictured a very introverted, in his head, artistic kind of guy who probably was more about being behind the scenes than front and center. But that is the exact opposite kind of guy that I witnessed anyway at the launch. He was super friendly. He approached me and my wife, just said, "Hey, how's it going?" Asked us where we were from, asked us what we did for a living. And that was the coolest thing. He would just kind of make the rounds and talk to each and every person, regardless of if he knew them or didn't know them. And while I was there, I captured a little bit of video. No, I did not vlog it. I know some people on my Discord server asked me to do a vlog, but I'm not a vlog guy. But I did capture the entirety of the time he was speaking, as well as doing a brief reading. And there was even a small musical performance at the very end. So I have it all here for you. It's uncut. Apologies that it's in portrait mode because I didn't want to have the backs of people's heads in the shot. And you can imagine it was a pretty crowded small space. So I had to capture this thing in portrait. He's doing a very short tour. I'll put up the dates and places here on the screen. And I highly encourage you, if you live in one of these cities, nearby one of these cities, or have the means to travel to one of these cities, I highly recommend you check it out. It was a great time. If it's anything like the event I went to, you're going to have an awesome time, meet a lot of great people, and of course, pick up what I can only imagine is going to be a fantastic book. Speaking of which, if you are looking to read this book, we are doing a buddy read on my Discord server. It's going to start, well, actually, I think people are reading it right now. I'm not going to start it until November 1st, and I feel like it's going to last me much longer than the month of November because I plan to read it in print because I had the ebook ARC copy and I read maybe 100 pages or so of it, really loved it, but I stopped because the formatting or whatever was weird in the ebook. But also I watched a video of Mark's and he was talking about how he was very meticulous about the typesetting in the book. Not that it's like House of Leaves per se, but let's just say the way he was laying out the text on the page to create a sense of pacing is present. So I'm going to sit down and read this massive tome of a hardback, the old school way, which, like I said, will probably take me a bit more time than November to finish, but I will shut up. Here is the video in its entirety. It's about 18 minutes long. And if anybody happens to see this, the Chevalier staff, Mark himself, his friends that I got to meet, thank you guys so much out there for making an amazing event. I had a blast. My wife had a blast, and hopefully there will be another one in the future. All right, I'll shut up. Here's the video. Don't forget, pick up the book, and thanks for watching.
Chevaliers, everyone please. For hosting this party, I want to thank these wonderful musicians who've been playing. Rose Valley Horn. And for those of you who don't know me, well, congratulations for wandering into a very weird event. I mean, if you've ever been to a bookstore, there's a reading, questions, a signing. There's not a party, and that's what we wanted to have tonight. We just wanted to have a party. And what's most important to me is that you actually say hello to each other, because I get to say hello to a lot of familiar faces. And I know what great readers so many of you are, and you have a little moment to say, howdy, partner. And if you put on a little bit of a twang, and I'm going to read my book in a twang, then it will kind of make you feel more comfortable. Anyway, my name is Mark Danielewski. I wrote House of Leaves, Only Revolutions, The 50-Year Sword, The Familiar, Season 1, a children's book called The Little Blue Kite, and now Tom's Crossing. And I'm going to say this boldly, flat out, I am very, very proud of Tom's Crossing. It is the best thing I've ever written. The best thing. It took a lifetime to learn how to write like that. And I can tell you this because, and I'm so glad you're here, that statement comes with a bit of melancholy. Because at the same time that I announced that certainty, I also know I will never be able to write that well again. Oh. I mean, if you're lucky enough to go to the mountain and you know your way to the top, you can also know that you ain't never coming back. And so for me, I'm looking back and I'm thinking, wow, the only saving grace here is that you all get to take that mountain and have that experience for yourselves. It took me about 5, 6, 7 years, depending on how you count them, to write it. Maybe 10 years. You're gonna get a lot of that. The heckling is already starting. And one of the most troubling part of this moment, by the way, is that the heckling was started by my own daughter. So when I started this journey, I made a pact with myself that one, I would write it alone without any feedback, and that it would be real short. And it was like I was talking to the voice of the woods. Like, all you had to do was go just a few paces through the birches and the aspens, and there's going to be a beautiful meadow there and a nice little pond, and it would be easy. And when anyone says easy, you know there's a trick at hand. Because I went in there, and sure enough, I didn't find that meadow or that pond. I found myself on the rubble of some steep ascent. And I wasn't talking anymore to the voice of the woods. This was the voice of the mountain, or something older. And by then, I knew I was saddled with responsibilities. And even more frightening, I wasn't alone anymore. And for years, I was with that voice. Now, the first person I showed this book to when I finished was my wife. I love you, Gina. Thank you so much. And when I brought her the book, I did for a moment think, you know what? I'm going to take about 500 pages, and I'm going to print all work and no play makes Mom a dull dude. But I didn't. And I gave her the book, and she paid me 2 compliments. The first one was over weeks. She would shush me right out of the room while she was reading. Now and then I even saw some tears in her eyes. And then the second part was when she finished, and she came up and she announced flatly, "It's a banger." It's like, okay. The second person I showed the whole thing to was my editor. He's here tonight. Thank you, Edward. Let's give him a ring. I want you to feel for him. It is a lot of work editing a 1,232-page book. But I want you to feel double for him because he got a book that was over 1,600 pages. And together we cut out 400 pages. It was very, very good. I also want to thank the copy editors that followed and also some of the early readers who are here tonight. Thank you so much. In the summer, we created what we called a pre-galley. It was still loaded with about 12,000 errors. And we wrapped it up in burlap, and I wrote a handwritten note, and we sent it out in a box to about a score of writers that I admired. And this was hunting for, that's a close friend, by the way, his phone is going. It's unbelievable. And so, it's kind of a mystery. If I've gone on too long, it's like the Oscars, right? It's like, get off stage. And so we sent out all of these things. And for any of the young aspiring writers here, Hunting for a blurb is just an agonizing experience. It doesn't matter if it's your first novel or if you've written 9 already, because the reality is no one responded. And then, in the middle of the summer, I got a postcard, handwritten, and it said, "The story's good, the language luxy. It's slow going. I'm about 300 pages in, but it's delish. Steve." Wow. And my wife and I looked at each other and we said, "Who the hell is Steve?" And we went through the list and we were like, maybe it's someone else, maybe they're guessing. And yeah, as many of you guessed, it was Stephen King. And I have to tell you, for a man who's as busy as that, who writes as much as he does, who produces, to not only write the blurb that's now on the back of that book, but to continue to write a personal email afterwards about how much he enjoyed the book, and to continue to support the book. What it does for me is it inspires me, because it says to me, I need to work harder with those galleys that are sent to me. So that's a promise that I've made to myself. And I also want to thank all of you here, all of my friends, because even if you weren't involved in the exact process, your perspectives, your arguments, your support, your laughter, even getting to swim with some of you every morning, because novel writing you can't do in one night, you can't do it in a few weeks. You just have to grind away at it every single day. I really thank you. And I thank you all for showing up tonight, because this is my finish line for the book. And at the same time, it's the birth of the book. This is, as I told my daughter, the birthday of the book. And it really means a lot that you came here. Yes. So now's the fun part. I am going to read a little bit from the book. It's a little story. All right, this is for you guys up front, all right? And it's about a horse and a little girl. It's only a couple of pages. But I will tell you, all of you, this is not a children's book. Make no mistake. And I will tell you for real, this book is haunted. If you read it, you will ride with the dead. And what's more, you'll ride with your own death. And there is peace, but whether or not you make it will be up to you. May I borrow that book there, sir? All right.
Like happened.
All right, here we go. You get 2 pages. And this is the story of a horse named Jojo.
What a sweet name.
Jojo was wild from the start. Born with a hot wire in his heart, folks admired him from foal to colt, mainly for his breed. He was Arabian, mostly, maybe with some thoroughbred, some Mustang. He had black skin more beautiful than moonlight when it's pure and unfettered by any demand to reflect, with blacker hair and white ticket. Rabbinacano was the best fit. He sure weren't technically as in genetically a true Roman. Not that it mattered. Everyone who saw Jojo just saw blue. He was powerful too, stubborn. And when he was broken, though many agree he was never broken, he never sacrificed that preserving instinct to suddenly buck and bolt for no reason anyone could explain. Because of this unpredictable quality, he was kicked around from trailers to auctions to concrete floored stalls to more trailers. And kicked around weren't just some expression. Too many folks landed kicks on his side, his flanks. And that wild creature of midnight blue took them insults and held on to them until they matured into a moment none could guess at. And then he kicked back. Jojo pretty much near kicked every wall, gate, and rib cage if he could get close enough. Now and then he'd manage a good bite too. By the time the Gatestones got him, you couldn't even approach Jojo without him rearing straight up, which Tom thought was funny as a comic book, though even he was cautious about getting too close. Their daddy, when he first set Jojo loose in their Indian Hills paddock, named him Crescent Moon because he spent more time in the air than on the ground. Landry, though, called him Jojo. She and Jojo arrived at the Gatestones at pretty much the same time. This was 1973, and they was both 6. Landry had never seen a horse except in tattered storybooks. And then one day, when Dallin weren't looking, little Landry slipped under the fence rail and ran to him. Because, as she later put it, she wanted to hold the moon. Tom's dad was none the wiser neither. How could he be? It weren't like he heard anything. Not a scuffle, not a bump, and sure not one of them wild neighs that typically followed that big stallion going skyward. Who can remember what Dallin was doing at that moment? But like a good parent will quick enough notice when there's nothing to notice when there's a child around, well, that's usually when the trouble's in the making. Dallin didn't even think to look first in the paddock. She'd only been near his boots, near underfoot, and but moments ago too. And now he was frantic, heading into the barn. And when he didn't find her there, why, he was looking around the truck, even down on his knees, looking under the truck. Only when he stood back up did he look to the paddock and behold his newly adopted daughter holding that blue crescent moon. She was just standing there, her arms wrapped around one leg, her head resting there too, not even tall enough to reach the horse's chest. Her eyes were closed. And do you think that big blue stallion was biting and kicking? Heck no. He was still as a statue. Well, that's not entirely true. Eventually, he did lower his head to sniff some of her hair nostrils, his nostrils flaring maybe for the newness there, or if you believe Charlene Kizis, who was from Warbop but wound up trying to put down roots near Edinburgh, he was catching in Landry's wild black ringlets a whiff of familiarity, of common ancestry, the spirit of goodness. Tom didn't put it like that, but he did admit that JoJo's nostrils were drinking in something no man will ever send out. The recognition of a heart that would from that point on never leave his side, even if a grave stood between them. Clop, clop, click, clop. Not that Dallin Gatestone the good, Dallin Gatestone the kind, Dallin Gatestone the calm could wonder any at this idol. He near lost his mind. That was one big mean horse towering over that tiny dim-witted girl. Whoa, he kept trying to huff out, already breathing too fast. Whoa, like whoa was even needed. What with the two of them not moving at all? Of course, despite his panic, Dallin weren't so foolish as to go running out there either. He came in low and slow. He drew no attention. When he had about a dozen feet to go, why, only then did JoJo raise his mighty head some, lifting to the leg that Landry weren't clutching, and stomping that down hard. Dallin still tried to get in closer. But again, JoJo lifted that free hoof and stomped down. This time twice. Thumps hard enough, loud enough to thump Dallin right in the chest. Dallin was smart enough to back off then. In fact, all the way to the fence, sitting on the top rail, just praying Sandra wouldn't drive up then, because she for sure would have up. Who knows what she would have done. Fortunately, Sandra didn't come roaring in there, nor did anyone else. Dallin just sat there and watched and waited. And only then did what he was beholding finally start to sink in. The craziest embrace he'd ever seen. One of them special moments a life only gets a handful of, if that. One you'll never forget. And Dallin sure never did forget. And Lord knows he told the story scores of times later. But he never did share how on that day tears had welled up in his eyes and streaked his cheeks. Dallin Gatestone never could say how long that hug lasted. The way he talked about it over the years, it was like it was still going on. And maybe it was. Thank you. Thank you. Now, if that's not enough, and that was plenty, I am very happy to introduce Jim Kalin and Heidi Huber. They're going to come up and they're going to sing a song from the book called Tom's Crossing. If you're interested in following along, it's on page 923. So enjoy their music, and I'll be seeing you out there.
So yeah, this is a song that Mark wrote the lyrics, and he also wrote the words to it. And it's about his book. And he taught my wife and I this song. And I'm struggling with it. But of course, I'm getting to Mark writes. But we took it and we sprinkled a little bit of fruit hill. So if you want to read along, you can. If you want to sing along, you can. Can't answer what you're asking, but I'll tell you what you need. He come by way of Obedija and headed for the sea. And sure there will be mountains and what voices around the cliffs, but he's bound to set them free before he sets his heart adrift. Oh, I'm begging out of Arno, this way is pushed by much. Just sing a pretty song for him, and that will be enough. Old fortune is coming, it's red and hills, and what he's planning, all the future all skills.
Don't talk to me of laundry, don't talk to me of tongue. Don't talk to me of feeling wrong.
Oh, I'm begging out of all, this way is cursed by much. Just sing a pretty song for them, and that will be enough.
We're kind of fun.
All right, I would like.